Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will talk about three seemingly unrelated but all very important issues. The real purpose of the CCP's insane zero-code policy, the comeback of China's national Gong Xiao She or Supply and Marketing Cooperative system, and the CCP's plan or action of establishing a Chinese-only internet that will cut all Chinese people from the outside internet. The last one is very chilling, but the three seemingly unrelated affairs may point toward the same affair. So make sure you stick around till the end. Many people have asked me the same question. Why do Xi Jinping and the CCP have to adopt the insane zero-COVID policy when the entire world has reopened? Why do they bring such huge damage to their own economy and hurt their own people so badly? So how insane has this zero-COVID policy become? Let me share with you several short clips that really hit me hard, much harder than anything else. This is two kids in China playing some game. The girl says to the boy, "Now I'll do a COVID test for you." Then she pushes an extra huge drop into the boy's mouth. She pushes too hard, so the boy says, "You almost stamped me to death." This is also kids playing around, imitating doing the COVID test. See this. See? The kid says, "Line up and scan your code." The two kids hold up their hands to imitate the action of scanning the health code on their cell phones, as that's what adults do when they do COVID tests. This video shows a group of children recite some poems that basically say, "Let's fight the COVID in high spirits and with a lot of determination. Let's do COVID test together. Let's recite ancient poems while doing the COVID test. Let's go back to hundreds of years ago and meet the ancient poems." Then they start to recite poems adapted from the most famous, most beautiful Tang Dynasty poems, and say something like, "Let's do the COVID test together with Li Bai, Lu You, Su Shi, Luo Yun, etc." They quote one line from another famous poem, and then follow that with a line saying that the author of that poem is doing a COVID test with me. You can hear that recite in rhyme, and they are quoting a lot of famous poems. They sign the whole say, "Do COVID test." When I heard they twisted the most beautiful ancient Chinese poems like that, I really wanted to cry. It is like they are saying something like, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Have you got your test done yet? Come down and let's do the tests." Or it could also sound like something like this. "To be or not to be, that's no longer a question. William Shakespeare is doing COVID test with us." Well, these are just made up by me to give you an idea of how they are twisting the most beautiful Chinese poems. Now watch this.
啥他都不答应，就喊这个。算是废了。 小区里每天都喊做
The
核
man
酸，
says
他竟
that
然认为自己叫
because
做核酸。我
every
给你
day
们试试啊，
someone will
做核酸！
start
你看，
做
叫
核酸
啥他都不答应，
COVID
就喊这个。
test loudly in the
这狗子
community
酸，他竟然认为自
to order everyone to come down to do the COVID test. The little dog believes that his name is COVID test. So if you call him COVID test, he will immediately run to you. If you call him by any other names, he will ignore you. He will only respond when you call him COVID test. This video shows that a public restroom was turned into a quarantine site in Lanzhou City, Gansu province in China. The temperature at night is as low as 10 Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit now. This video shows the parking lot was also turned into a quarantine site as the so-called Fangchang hospitals are full. This is another video of people sleeping in parking lot and open air when the temperature at night is as low as 50 degrees. To be frank, although it is bad enough to sleep in the parking lot and public restroom, what terrifies me more are the 3 videos of kids cheerfully playing the COVID test as interesting games and reciting poems about the COVID test in such high spirits. This will make COVID testing part of their childhood memory and part of their culture. As soon as things become part of the culture, it is not easy to go away and will affect their kids and will affect these kids for the rest of their lives. Now, let's go back to our question before. Why would the CCP impose such an insane zero COVID policy? Some people say it is to test local officials' loyalty to Xi Jinping. But don't you think the cost of the test is too high? Why don't they test the officials' loyalty in some other ways? So, a more reasonable explanation is Xi Jinping's insane zero COVID policy is not that insane, actually. He needs it to control the population, to test the bottom line of people's endurance, and to get them used to living under such harsh conditions so that when wartime comes, everybody is ready and can live under extremely difficult wartime status for a long time. Now, let's look at another video. This is a so-called Fangchang quarantine site in Sichuan province. See how magnificent it is. Do they really need so many facilities to quarantine people? A while ago, that's on September 24th, it was announced that the CCP would spend nearly 1.7 billion yuan or 220 million US dollars to build 3,009 quarantine rooms at Fuxing Island in Shanghai City. This is a picture of Fuxing Island in Shanghai. This picture shows that the construction has already started. So much money is pouring into these facilities, which are said to be quarantine centers, but they can be turned into something else in no time, right? Before the so-called reform and opening up to the outside world. Until the late 1970s, China was a planned economy, and the state-owned Gong Xiao She system, or the Supply and Marketing Cooperative, cooperatives controlled both the purchasing and the sales channels of the entire China. This is a picture of a shop in those years. Only the supply and marketing cooperatives and had the right to buy products from peasants and factories, and people could only buy those products from these shops. There were no free markets. Also, there was a rationing system. Everything was rationed. For example, I remember very clearly that when I was a young child, everyone had only 0.2 kilograms or 0.44 pounds of pork and cooking oil every month. Yes, for 1 month, only less than half a pound of pork or cooking oil. That was our quota in the 1960s and 1970s. Since the reform and opening up to the outside world, the Gong Xiao She system gradually faded out of people's sight. And all sorts of mega, medium, and small-sized supermarkets and shopping malls were everywhere in China. As long as you have money, you can buy anything. There is no such a thing as rationing. However, in recent years, starting from 2015, the Gong Xiao She system gradually made a comeback. It started in the rural areas, but have reached the cities in the past 1 or 2 years. Some 10 days ago, on October 17th, Hebei Daily published an article saying that by the end of 2021, the total number of grassroots supply and marketing cooperatives in Hebei province had reached 1,377, basically achieving full coverage of all townships. The number of farmers who joined the systems had increased from 51.5 thousand in 2016 to 333,000 in 2020. So that's about 6 times the number 5 years ago. This article, published in September last year, said that there were already 37,600 grassroots cooperatives, 192,000 farmers cooperatives, and 448,000 comprehensive service cooperatives in China. This Xinhua article says that in the first 6 months of 2020, the National Supply and Marketing Cooperative System has reached total sales of more than 2.9 trillion yuan, an increase of 19%. Among them, sales of agricultural products 1.27 trillion yuan, an increase of 25%. So how much is 2.9 trillion yuan? It is about 407 billion US dollars. To make a comparison, I checked the total retail sales of consumer goods in China in 2021. The number of the entire year is 44 trillion yuan. So the sales volume of the supply and marketing cooperative is 13% of the total retail sales number. You might say that 13% is not a big number. The point is, the system has been re-established on purpose. According to Professor Yuan Hongbin, the CCP ordered all provinces to have the supply and marketing cooperative system established throughout China in 2021, and the purpose is to control all the resources and consumer goods in China, and this is a necessary step to get China prepared for a war against Taiwan. As soon as the war breaks out, the US and other countries may impose sanctions on China. And if the CCP can control the supply and marketing cooperative system, it can be used immediately to control the supply of consumer goods. Please remember that we are now living in a digital era, and the CCP has made the best use of digital technology to control the population. If the health code can be used to control where you can go or whether you can leave your home or enter a hospital now in wartime, the health code can easily be turned into some other code, say wartime code, to control everything, especially how much of what you can buy. In this case, China is better positioned in handling the hardships brought by the war. People have gotten used to being controlled and suffering. Being controlled and suffering material hardships have become part of the culture and a natural state of their existence. Remember how those kids played COVID test games and recited COVID test poems? This way, the CCP will become more resilient. Another worrying piece of information is that the CCP is building its own internet protocol stack, which will enable the CCP to build an internet of its own, cutting Chinese people from the world on the internet. Look at this article. It was published by an unknown author, and this piece of information has not been confirmed yet. However, from the language it used and from the way it was presented, I personally felt that it wouldn't hurt to share this piece of information, which could be very important. The article says China will gradually stop using the Western Internet that is based on the TCP IP protocol stack. Instead, China will develop its own protocol stack called Dongfeng and Hongyan. Dongfeng means east wind, and Hongyan means swan goose. I remember in Mao Zedong's time, Mao often said it's either the east wind overwhelms the west wind, or the west wind overwhelms the east wind. The actual meaning was it's either the CCP beats the US and the West, or the US and the West beat the CCP. Did this remind you of something? Something Xi Jinping kept saying. The East is rising and the West is declining. I believe Xi gained his inspiration of this sentence from Mao. He is truly a faithful follower of Mao Zedong. Anyway, China's own internet, which is to be called New Era Chinese Internet, will be entirely based on the Dongfeng East Wind and Hongyan Swan Goose protocol stack. Protocol stack traffic conversation equipment will only be set up in a few outlets that connect to the internet world, and this equipment will be for military use only. Frankly speaking, I don't quite understand what this is all about. I just tried my best to translate the Chinese, which I don't quite understand either. So I interviewed an IT engineer. His explanation is that the internet functions rely on the fundamental software on top of which the internet works. There are 7 layers of software, which each layer serves the upper layer and uses the service of the underlying layer. Each layer communicates with the same layer of another peer with specific signaling pattern, which we call protocol. For all the 7 layers, we call it protocol stack. TCP/IP protocol stack, which is the fundamental part of the 7-layer stack, is the basis of the internet. And this will be phased out in China and be replaced by Dongfeng and Hongyan protocol stack with independent intellectual property rights owned by the CCP. Protocol stack traffic conversation equipment which translates between Dongfeng Hongyan protocols and the TCP IP protocols will be set up only in a few outlets connected to the outside internet and only for military purposes. In principle, the websites registered within China can only be accessed within China. If it needs to be accessible from outside of China, it needs to be deployed by using both protocols, which means 2 sets of equipment. In addition, one will need a permit to visit international internet outside of the application and can only browse the internet via the designated client or host. So this will be another form of cutting off from the world. The IT engineers also said that the CCP might want to incorporate monitoring and censoring functions within the 7 layers of fundamental software, and all current methods people use to jump over the CCP's Great Firewall, including VPN, may not work anymore. He said Starlink may be a solution, but he's not 100% sure. Well, this is truly a chilling picture, right? When I searched for Dongfeng and Hongyan in Chinese, I didn't get many results. Actually, this is the only other one I got. It says, rumor has it that in Quanzhou City, Fujian province in China, a network whitelist system is being tested. Is this true, and how will that affect us? It seems to me that what they mean by a whitelist system is that only websites on the whitelist can be accessed. All others will be blocked. Anyway, the top reply to that question says something like, I 100% support the whitelist system. We need to urgently stop the infiltration of overseas forces. Then it says 3 steps need to be taken. Step 1 is to thoroughly develop and own our own intellectual property rights from the fundamental part of the network, accelerating the development of national standards such as the Dongfeng Hongyan protocol stack, vigorously promote the upgrading and manufacturing of national standard network equipment, and gradually stop the manufacture of Western TCP/IP network equipment. Step 2 is to accelerate the establishment of the Red Chinese Internet based on Dongfeng Hongyan protocol stack, completely replace the Western Internet based on TCP/IP protocol stack, and only set up conversation equipment at several outlets that connect to the internet world. This way we can effectively enhance our network control capability and facilitate the implementation of a network whitelist system, an approval system for overseas network access, and regulate illegal network services such as virtual LANs. Step 3 is to speed up legislation and strictly enforce the law to further complete the internet security laws and regulations at the system and the legal level. Completely stop the overseas access function of the civilian Chinese internet. This post calls it China Red Internet, gradually establish a permission approval system and a process for access to overseas internet, strictly control the production and use of network protocol switching equipment between Chinese internet and Western internet, etc. Well, this all sounds very true and even familiar to me. Just think how much effort and money the CCP has spent over these years on its great firewall to block people from access to overseas website. I'm not surprised at all if the CCP is now preparing or in the process of solving this problem from the fundamental level. Well, the above-mentioned three aspects of affairs may be very different from one another, but they all point to the same thing. The CCP is preparing to cut itself further from the world, and its attack on Taiwan may be very imminent. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. If you are new here, please subscribe to my channel. If you are already subscribed, please like and share my content and check if you are still subscribed. Also, I would appreciate it very much if you could go to my website and jenniferzengblog.com. That's jenniferzengblog.com to sign up for a membership or make a donation to support my truth-telling efforts. Thank you. See you next time.